crafters, it's Chris from Crafts with Chris. Thank you guys so much for either going to my online shop, making a purchase and using the current host code, or buying this card class outright. I really appreciate that. This card class is free as a bird, so you should receive a packet in the mail with all the materials to make this card class. There are 6 cards, 3 different designs of each, and envelopes are included. And also in here will be a colored PDF file, which gives you a list of all of the materials that were used, the sizes, some of the cardstocks were cut, and also the link to this current video. So the first card we're going to work on today is this cute little card. So in your card packet, I just want to show you, I have some already cut, ready to go, but I want to show you in your packet. Yours is going to look a little different than mine. My son helped me, and when he ran this through the embossing machine, he left a line here, so I'm going to use that one, but yours will not look like that. Yours will look like this. There'll be no line there. So I just wanted you guys to be aware, if you see that on mine, you're not going to see that on yours. But I'm going to use this one because he helped me create it. So in your cardstock, you will have your piece of Magenta Madness cardstock. And it will be pre-scored for you. So you just want to give your bone folder in there and give it a good crease. So also in there, you'll find a piece of designer series paper, your Very Vanilla, a stitched nestled shape, and then your bow. You actually won't have a bow. You'll have ribbon. You can make your own bow. I'm not that great at making bows, so I didn't want to give you some disproportioned bows, so you guys can go ahead and make your own bows, but I made mine just to save time here. So the very first thing I'm going to do is take this piece of Very Vanilla, and we're just going to layer that right on the inside of the card so you have a nice place to write. And then we're just going to set this aside. We're going to bring in that piece of Very Vanilla, which was cut out of the stitched nestled dies, label dies. And let's go ahead, and the only ink we're using today on all 3 of these cards is the Memento. So in your stamp set, there is this beautiful image with the birds on the branch. That's the image we're going to use to stamp out. We're just going to ink that up with our Memento. And then this is just going to go right across the front of this. Isn't that just so cute? Those birds are just so sweet. So now in your stamp set, there is a bunch of different little sentiments. I'm going to use the sentiment hello in there. Again, I'm going to use the Memento, and this is just going to go right on the very bottom. Oh, I've got it crooked. That's okay. It's hard when the camera's in front because I can't bend over to see exactly where I want to put my sentiment, but that's all right. They know it's homemade when you have your imperfections on there like that. So we're just going to let that dry a little bit because I'm going to bring in the Stampin Blends and do some coloring on there. I love the Stampin Blends. They're so pretty, but you can use any kind of colors you want. Be aware that if you do use Memento ink with any water-based coloring, the black can smear. So if you wanted to color with a water-based color like our stamp pads or our Stampin' Write markers, then you would want to use Stays-On ink, and that will not smear. But you want to make sure before you do any coloring that your ink is completely dry. So I'm just going to take this piece of designer series paper, and on the back side are these real pretty flowers. You could do that too, but I like the stripes on this one. So we're just going to glue that right across the front. And I put that right in the middle. Your piece will go right to the very ends. It'll measure at 5.5. Again, my son helped me with my card packet here to set up, so it's a little shorter, but you guys get the gist of it. So now let's bring in this beautiful birds here. You can also, if you're not sure if it's dry, you could take your heat tool and give it some heat just to make sure that it is dry. But on this one, I'm using the Flirty Flamingo, and I'm going to also use the light Rococo Rose. We also will be using the light Old Olive, and then the final color will be the light Crumb Cake. I believe that's the light one. Yes, light Crumb Cake. So I'm going to start with the light Crumb Cake, and I'm going to just color the branch here. So if you wanted to come back in here with your dark, you could go over all these lines and do that. I'm just doing the light color over the whole branch. And that's it for the Crumb Cake. And then the Old Olive, I'm going to use that for all of the branches. And I'm using the finer tip to do all my coloring, just because the images I'm coloring are a little smaller. So it's a lot more control with the smaller tip. The Stampin Blends, if you guys have bought them, they are items that if you use them a lot, you will have to rebuy some of the colors. They just aren't, they're alcohol based, and they don't last forever, but they do. So far I've had, like this Old Olive, I've had this since the beginning of the markers, which was, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago. So, but just be aware that if you do use them a lot, you will have to replace your colors. So then for the flowers, I'm going to bring in the light Rococo Rose. And this is one of our colors that is retiring. I'm not sure how much Rococo Rose stuff and of the new in colors. I haven't checked on our website lately to see how much product is left. So I'm just going to color all the flowers with the Rococo Rose. And then the last thing I'm going to do is bring in the Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just going to kind of go where all these lines are on the birds. And just kind of give color right there. I'm not coloring in the whole birds. As you can see, I'm not being too fancy with it. I'm just kind of scribbling where the lines are. And that's it. Maybe I'll color this bird's little tail in. But that's it to the coloring. And then all I'm going to do is put this right on top of the paper. And then the last thing is your piece of tulle in there. You want to form it into a bow. And then I found the glue dot will work the best to apply that. And I'm just going to use my Take-A-Pick tool, or you can use your bone folder to get that piece of glue off. And then I'm going to stick it on the back of my ribbon. And then I'm just going to stick it right on the front of the card right there. Isn't that cute? Super easy, super simple card. So that's card number 1. So now we're going to move on to card number 2. So this is card number 2. So we're going to pull out all our materials for card number 2. First thing I'm going to do is take out this circle. This is part of the stitched shape dies. So they are retiring currently. And at the time of this video, they were available, but I'm not sure if these are still available in our shop. I know things are going pretty quickly. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're just going to do our stamping so we have time to let that dry. So again, the Memento ink. In your stamp set here, you have this leaf and you have these flowers here. So, and then you also have this thank you. So this is what I'm using on here. So I'm going to stamp that first so I can kind of work around my thank you. So again, with the memento, and this is going to go right at the very bottom. Oh no. Well, it's going to go right there because it fell off. So there's where it's going to go. But on this one here, I put it right at the bottom. So that's fine. So we're going to work around that. So I'm going to take the branch first, and I'm going to kind of go off just a couple of little branches there. And then I'm going to bring in the big flowers. I don't have room for this one because if that was put down a little bit more, I would have enough room. So I'm going to use the little flower and then stamp that a couple of times. Just like that. And then that's it for our stamping. We're just going to kind of set that to the side to let that dry. So we're going to bring back in our card base, and I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal, and your card base will be pre-scored. So what I'm going to do first is take this piece of Very Vanilla. That's going to be layered on the inside, so you have a nice place to write. And then on the front of the card, you'll have these two pieces of stitched shapes. These are stitched, these are from the rectangle stitched shapes. So these are going to layer right on top of this card. So I'm just going to take my Stampin' Seal. And just make sure when you put this on, you can see the stitching. There's a right way and a wrong way of the stitching, so make sure your stitching is facing upward. And this is just going to go in the center. Same thing with your purple posy. We're going to go ahead and put that right on and use some Stampin' Seal, and I'm going to center this. And then in your card packet, you have this little piece of designer series paper. I'm using this side, so we're going to just put some Stampin' Seal on the flower part, and this is going to go right on the front of that purple posy, right in the middle. So super cute. So now you're going to bring back in this piece that you had stamped. So again, I'm using Stampin' Blends. I have the Old Olive and Purple Posy, both colors, light and dark. So I'm going to start with the light purple posy for my flowers, and I'm just going to kind of color them in. Gonna bring in the light Old Olive, and I'm gonna color in my leaves. Now I'm going to take the dark purple posy with the finer tip, and I'm just going to come in here and do some shading. Stampin' Up! Kind of makes it really easy because they give you the lines. They pretty much show you where you would do your shading. I'm not one for coloring. You know, I've never been really good at it, but Stampin' Up! Really helps. And I do love the way everything looks with these Stampin' Blends. They're so pretty. Then I'm going to go back over my leaves here, and I'm just going to go over the lines. And just remember when you're using the Stampin' Blends that they do tend to bleed, so you want to make sure you're not coloring right on the outside lines because it will bleed. I'm just gonna go in and just kind of color in that branch. And that's all the coloring I'm doing on that. So I'm gonna bring this back in. I actually did use some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals to put that on the front of the card. I do like to use a bunch of these just because they're so cheap. And I like when you get something in the mail, if you only have one dimensional on there or two, it tends to sag. So this is nice when you have a bunch of them on there because there's no sagging. So I'm just going to pop this up over off to the side. And in your kit, you have some of the Pastel Pearls. So these here, I'm just going to use my Take-A-Pick tool. And I'm going to put them right down here. And that is card number 2. So this is card number 3. And I think this card is my favorite out of all of them. Should have in your card packet a piece of Rococo Rose. We're just going to go ahead and fold that right in half on your score line. Give that a good crease. And then in there you will see a piece of Whisper White cut into an oval. So we're going to use that, take that out first. And we're going to do our stamping so it will dry by the time we put together our card. So in your stamp set, you will find this little bird. And I'm using the sentiment, your friendship means the world to me. That's all I'm going to do to stamp on this card. So your friendship means the world to me. You're going to stamp that off to the right-hand side, as close to the end as you can. And then your little bird, and bring him in, and you're going to kind of just stamp him. He's not going to fit on the whole oval, but that's okay. And now we're just going to set to one side to let dry. I'm going to bring in the rest of my card here, and that piece of Very Vanilla is going to be layered on the inside. So we're going to do that first. Again, I'm just using Stampin' Seal. I have these 2 pieces of ribbon in here. This is silver edged metallic ribbon. This is currently not available anymore. When I made the card, it was available. This is what you're going to get in your packet. You could use any type of ribbon you want. There's also a gold edged metallic ribbon on the website, but I'm not sure how much longer that will last. But this is going to be glued to this vellum. Now you're going to get a piece of vellum, and it may be ripped. It's okay because it'll still look great on there. The vellum is very delicate to run through your folders. So a lot of times it will rip your different pieces. But again, like I said, it's not going to matter. It's on the front of your card. It's going to look really great. So I'm going to take and do the little trick that I always do with the ribbon. But I'm not going to run it all the way down because vellum is see-through. So you want to make sure you only put it where your items are going to kind of cover that glue because it is very see-through. So if we were to just put this on the cardstock, let me just show you. You can see that piece of, if the camera will pick it up, that piece of adhesive, and that will show through. So you always want to try to hide your vellum or your adhesive when you're using vellum. So this is a simple way to hide it. You just kind of wrap your ribbon around, cover up that piece of glue back there. And then if your ribbon tends to be too long, you can always trim that too. And you want to do the same thing down here. So then what you're going to do is run some adhesive right along the line of your ribbon. And then this is going to be glued right down. And the ribbon's going to hide your adhesive. So they're not going to be able to see unless they pull up the ribbon, then you can see the adhesive back there. But that ribbon's going to be hiding that adhesive. So a little trick to vellum. Vellum is pretty difficult sometimes to work with. So with this guy that we've gone ahead and stamped, I'm just going to bring in the Flirty Flamingo color. I'm using the light Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to go over the little lines in this bird. Just to give it a little bit of color. That's it. And then this is going to go right on top of the scalloped piece. This is part of the layering ovals. You get your oval shape and then you get scalloped shapes. And you can layer them up to create these beautiful little border. And then this I actually popped up on the front also. And then this is going to go right in the center. And then the last thing to complete this is in your set you will find these Gilded Gems. You have a larger one and a smaller one. I just took these and put them right on the front. See if I can get this off of here. There's a hair on it. Probably from one of my dogs. I kind of just angle them down, and that's it. That's it to that card. So that's it to Free as a Bird card class. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I look forward to our next card class together.